The 1930s saw a syphilis epidemic in the United States. 1 in 10 Americans are affected by this sexually transmitted infection. A painful rash that lasts for about 2 years, blisters. Syphilis results in organ damage in the late stages after these initial symptoms. Diseases of the heart, the brain, and even blindness. It was difficult to contain the disease's spread. Experts advise against unguarded sex. But even worse, treatments like bismuth and mercury, which are readily available, can spread the infection during childbirth. At best, they were thought to be unreliable and, at worst, dangerous. These heavy metals are now categorized as toxins. But at the time, medical professionals were still learning about its adverse side effects. Healthcare professionals had 2 preliminary inquiries amid the uncertainty. Do the risks associated with using available treatments outweigh the last stages of syphilis? Does the affected person's race impact how the disease progresses? Many medical professionals believe that syphilis. White patients' nervous systems are impacted by it, and patients' black cardiovascular systems. Little evidence supported this theory. However, the U.S. Public Health Service was adamant about conducting more research. In Tuskegee, Alabama, they began a large-scale experiment in 1932. There was already a small hospital in the city. There were a lot of potential participants in the area. Local physicians and nurses worked together with the Public Health Service to enlist 400 black men with late-stage non-infectious syphilis. 200 black men who did not have syphilis also made up their control group. But a lie was used to justify the recruitment strategy. Although the researchers intended to keep an eye on the spread of syphilis, with little intervention, participants were informed they would get free care and treatment for their ailments. The researchers first discussed treatments with the men, but fake drugs soon took their place. Under the guise of offering individualized care, the researchers did a lumbar puncture, which was painful and invasive, to assess the disease's neurological impact. The Public Health Service would swoop down on patients' corpses after they passed away to examine them, by providing funding for funerals in return for autopsies. Men served as volunteers in the studies they published, to keep secret the conditions of their recruitment. Syphilis treatment was ongoing outside of Alabama. 10 years after the experiment's start, clinical trials demonstrated how well penicillin treats the condition. I was beginning to take shape. However, the researchers in Tuskegee insisted on going on what they regarded as necessary research. Their racial difference theories have not yet been proven. They believed there would never be another opportunity. The tribal leaders decided to keep the patient's knowledge of the new treatments a secret to monitor the long-term effects of untreated syphilis. The researchers also convinced the local recruiting committee during World War II. Men are not allowed to participate in their studies. They made it impossible for them to find recruits and acquire penicillin. In the 1950s of the 20th century, the study went on. When it has been demonstrated that penicillin can help treat syphilis when it is advanced. Considering current bioethical guidelines, Dr. withheld treatment in a research study after giving the patients informed consent. Immoral. But this was a common practice for many of the 20th century. Studies conducted by the United States in the 1940s. Many soldiers, sex workers, prisoners, and people in mental health facilities have contracted the disease. To research potential treatments for sexually transmitted diseases. And other studies conducted in the 1950s and 1960s. She saw medical professionals covertly transferring cancer or even hepatitis C cells to patients. Researchers eventually started to object to these unfair trials. Additionally, in the late 1960s, STI investigator Peter Buxton, he convinced the NHS to think about stopping the study. However, Buxton voiced his concerns to the media after the leadership decided against it. The Tuskegee study garnered national attention in July 1972. And following a backlash from the public, a federal investigation, and a lawsuit. In 1972, 40 years after it started, the study ended. was no proof of racial discrimination. Only 74 of the 600 men were still alive at the conclusion of the study. Syphilis was contracted by 19 of their children and 40 of their wives, as a potential infection from their fathers and husbands. Following this tragedy and in anticipation of similar occurrences, Congress has passed new laws governing ethical research and informed consent. However, systemic racism is still pervasive in both medical practice and research.